Hey guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Abkary and I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk about dads. Hi, how are you? How's your week been? Woo, that was a take. It's 7:43 in the morning right now. I did that. I was thinking about it. I quit. I've talked to you guys about it before. I quit smoking, and while I was smoking, I couldn't have done that take. It's my first take. This early in the morning, I couldn't even talk like a human until like 12:30. I was just bleh. Used to sound really gross this early in the morning, but now I think I still sound a little gravelly. I think it's just how it's always gonna be. I don't know. I went on a date with a gal last Saturday, and she was like, "Your voice sounds like man." I'm like, I think it's just how it's always gonna sound. It's gonna have a little bit of a little rasp to it. I don't know. I'm fine with it. It's whatever. Hi. How was your 4th of July? Did you guys do anything cool? That's neat. I had a pretty chill 4th of July. I didn't do much. I binged Stranger Things. Holy shit. You guys watching that? That was a pretty good season. There were like a few things that kind of like bugged me about the season. But overall, I thought it was great. Made me cry a little bit. So I don't know if you guys want to talk Stranger Things in the Sad Dad Facebook page. Let's do it. Like, I have thoughts. I don't want to spoil anything on the podcast. That's not fair. But if you guys want to just fire up a chat in the in the Sad Dad Facebook page, let's do it. I have thoughts. I need to get out. Cool, man. Was kind of a crazy week. 4th of July aside. Did some interesting stuff this week. I drove all the way six and a half hours north with my buddies Danny and Liam to do a show way up there in Humboldt County, and there was this kind of this bar show, this place called the Brass Rail, and it was they were a rowdy crowd. I was kind of warned going into it that they were kind of a rowdy crowd, and they lived up to that reputation, but they were good rowdy. There's different kinds of rowdy, and there's also different kinds of, some comedians, if the audience talks at all at them, they're like, "Oh, it's being heckled." It's like, no, being heckled is like having some kind of a slur thrown your way. Like somebody like heckling, in my opinion, real heckling comes from a place of anger or hate from the heckler. To me, this crowd was doing my favorite kind of crowd interaction, which was they just wanted to be a part of the show. They were kind of adding on to it. It was fun and got to roll with it. And those are the times where you can really, really make some magic happen in stand-up comedy. There's real spontaneous moments that are hard to get in a lot of other, mediums or genres or whatever of live performance. So that was fun. And we drove back that night. That was Danny drove back he did about 4 hours back. We left at midnight and we got back home. I drove the rest of the way and got back at 7 in the morning. I was so tired. But it was good. Have some more fun out of town stuff coming up. If you're in the Santa Cruz area, I'll be headlining the Blue Lagoon on July 18th, which is a pretty fun, another rowdy room. So that should be a blast going out there with my dear friend Miss Tanya Salzer. You guys met her. I think she's on episode 25-ish, 28. I don't know. She's a wild child. I love her, and she's the only person I know that's ever been banned off of Tinder. She got banned off Tinder because she was doing this thing where if dudes Venmo'd her on Tinder, if they Venmo'd her $5, she'd send them a dick joke. And I guess Tinder counted that as sex work. I don't know. They flagged it with the same code that they flag sex workers with. I was like, you dummy. I mean, she made some money off it. I got to give her credit for that. But I try not to talk too much about personal dating stuff, but I kind of got broken up with last week, which is a real bummer. I'm having to get back out on the dating scene. I had this gal, it felt like it was getting serious. We weren't official, but we were also kind of exclusive. I wasn't I mean, she was the only gal I was talking to for about 3 months. And then we just decided, she decided that she wanted to focus on her things, and I get it and I respect it, but it was just, I mean, it was a bummer on being broken up with always kind of, always sucks, but I think I was just more bummed about like having to like re-download apps and stuff. I should maybe take some time off for me, I guess. I don't know. I'm at that point where it's like I've been single for just about 2 years now, and I'm like, I feel like I've had all the fun I really want to have. I think I'm ready for a relationship. That's kind of where I'm at. And it's just like going back to the grind, back to the dating grind. It's like, oh, here we go. But that's fine. I'm not like obsessed I'm not obsessed with it. I'm just trying to like keep myself open to experiences with people. But I don't know. It's the worst, man. Dating in your 30s is not fun. Maybe I don't know if it's ever fun. Maybe I didn't really date in my 20s. I was in sort of like a long-term relationship in my 20s for the most part. Or I went from like one really long-term relationship, took a year off after that ended, and then went into another like 4-year relationship. So I spent like most of my 20s in a relationship. I actually do bits about this on stage. I sound like I'm about to start writing bits or telling you bits. I'm not going to do that. I'm just rambling now. Oh man. Cool. Actually, let's talk about this. Let's just, before this gets any sadder, let's talk about today's guest. Today's guest is somebody I was excited to have on the show because I just wasn't sure how it was going to go. His name is David Rosenberg. David Rosenberg is a comedian up out of Los Angeles. He comes up on a semi-regular basis. David is somebody that I've worked with many times, but I haven't really ever gotten a chance to have a lot of like one-on-one time with him because he normally crashes with my co-producer and partner in crime, Danny. He stays at Danny's house a lot of the time because Danny has a dog named Charlie, and David's in love with Charlie. I don't have a Charlie, but Danny wasn't feeling great the night that David was having to stay, so David crashed with me, and it was good. And kind of got to know David. He's a real character. You'll see that. He kind of switches it on and off at random, and when you're hanging out in a at a comedy show, often before and after a show, and a comic's kind of switching it on and off like that. Yeah, it's hard sometimes to like get a sense of who they are as a real person, and I feel like I finally got to have that after working with David Rosenberg on and off for 2.5 years. It's neat to like finally like kind of get to the meat of like who he is as a person, and I was pretty excited. So that's what this episode is today. We talk about comedy. We talk about David's unique. As a comedian, we talk about how he's a crowd work comedian, which is different than a written material comedian. He goes up and every single one of his sets is different. He's got 2 or 3 like anchor jokes that he does. Sometimes at the beginning, sometimes at the end. A lot of the times it's at the end, so he can sell his T-shirts. And but it's really different. It's a way different perspective on comedy. He's also been doing it for a really, really long time too. I think he's like 14 years in, and we talk about that. So, the comedy part of this show is really fast. It's a really fascinating chat, and then we do get into the dad stuff, like we're supposed to, and that's pretty interesting too. David's got a pretty unique take on it. I like it. I like it too because there's a little bit of drama. You can feel like a little bit of David and I butt heads a little bit. It's in a friendly way, but he challenges me on some stuff, and I challenge him on some stuff, and it's good. So I'm excited to show it to you guys today, and let's just do the damn thing, huh? So without further ado, guys, here is my guest, Mr. David Rosenberg. I was just out on restaurant. I was just coming back from that lunch thing. And
how was your lunch?
It was pretty good. I also, that wasn't one of those. It was.
It's not on the microphone here.
Yeah, this is an audio form, medium. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of donut poking.
Yeah, donut poking donuts.
It was. I also got Indian food, which is we might be the same person. We have the same name.
Where'd you go?
A place called Curry House. It's the best Indian buffet in Fresno, in my opinion.
I was thinking this was going to be a buffet, but it wasn't. But it was more like a bunch of disinterested older Sikh gentlemen.
They're never interested, though.
Yeah, it was fine. It was cool. The food was good.
Yeah.
I was happy with it.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do I usually eat when I go here? I don't even know.
No, I don't know. You've been coming to Fresno what was the first time you came to Fresno?
God, it was years ago.
Yeah. Were you doing a show? What were you doing?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. People come to Fresno otherwise?
Man, some of us live here.
I still haven't seen that weird sunken garden thing.
Oh, yeah, the underground gardens.
Yeah, I still have to go to see that.
Yeah. I almost went. I went years ago. It's pretty cool. I mean, but it's like $20 to get in.
Really?
Yeah, and I know. I feel like it's a little overpriced because, especially having seen it before. So I don't know. But there's always people. There's always a million Chinese tourists that are
really.
Yeah, that are always there. I just drove by there to think about going in with a couple other comics a few weeks ago, and we were like, "Nah, man, $20 each."
Chinese tourists here? Sorry to put the table.
Because we're on the way to Yosemite, and so we get a lot of like international tourists through certain parts of Fresno.
Chinese people go to Yosemite?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
I'm vaguely racist.
Are you?
I didn't know they went to. Maybe it's because I don't really go to nature stuff. But I always thought nature stuff was particularly a useless white person thing.
No, yeah. I mean, you're probably not wrong, but Yosemite's an exception because it's so known internationally.
I didn't know that. I always thought because I lived in Europe, and so I knew of Chinese tourists or Japanese tourists. They're not the same, but going to like whatchamacallit? The Louvre, and they'd be all over. I lived in Paris, and the best thing about Japanese tourists was that they only took pictures one at a time.
Okay.
And I just imagined that if you went on a Japanese tour group, like going there would take the entire day because you'd have to each take one picture of one person in front of the Mona Lisa, and then the next person in front of the Mona Lisa, and then the next person. So if you had like 68 people, it would take forever because there was like no concept of a group photo.
Right.
It was mind-boggling. But and like I know this sounds vaguely racist, but I did observe it enough to be like,
it's a thing.
Yeah,
it's a cultural thing. Yeah,
you guys are never gonna like, hey, it's me and my 3 friends.
Yeah, right. That's not a thing. Everybody wants it. They're just them.
Yeah,
in the
just
photo.
them.
That's wild.
So wild.
Yeah. What show were you doing? What was the first show you did in Fresno? Who was it with? Was it with Danny?
Yeah. It was Danny. I did a Thursday night at what was that old place? It was
Mother Mary's. Was it that one?
Yeah, whatever, the Italian restaurant with the room that looked like a seminar for like a work seminar or like an HR seminar. Like, you've touched your coworker. Come back here.
Did you come up with somebody, or was it just you?
No, it was me. I think I headlined, and then I got other spots out of it. I forget that first time, but it was definitely a Thursday night. Mm-hmm. I think I drove back that night. I don't know if I stayed at Danny's.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know Danny. I was just, it was just the word of mouth of comics kind of referral thing.
Right.
So I came up on a Thursday, and then you guys are kind enough to have us up every, couple of months.
Yeah. And we've had you up a bunch this last couple months.
I would come up all the time.
I know you would. Yeah.
I love it here. I was talking to a much better comedian today, and he was making fun of Fresno, and I was like, I know, but the shows are always good.
Yeah.
Right? The best thing to eat is possibly a Indian shack next to the cement mixer place.
Yeah.
But like the audiences are so good here; they're so appreciative.
Yeah. And you had a great show, a great set last night.
Yeah, that was fun. It was super fun.
It looked like you were having fun.
I had super fun. And
you sold some T-shirts?
I sold some T-shirts.
Yeah.
I didn't offend the white children like you did.
I did. I made that one kid so mad.
Oh, he looked like he had anger issues.
He did. I have no sympathy for that. Both my brothers had terrible temper problems, and
really?
I'm just like, I don't have a stomach for it, man. I don't put up with that bullshit. So, You're a child. I'm not going to be intimidated by a child.
Yeah, I thought when you were talking to him, when you were talking to that other person, who I guess was his brother afterward or before the show, I was like, oh no, there was a problem with it. Was it a drunk? There was a drunk that he offended.
The drunk.
Like, and I didn't understand because the show hadn't started. But I was like, oh, there was a drunk. Oh no, it was an 11-year-old.
This child.
God damn it.
And last Monday, I don't know why it is. It's always on Monday. Last Monday, I had to throw a guy out. It's always on the nights that Danny's not there, and I have like no backup. And so yeah, last week I had to throw a guy out. It was the closest I'd gotten to being in a fight in a really long time. Like I almost.
Were you on stage and you had to like?
No, it was so ridiculous. Like this guy, he shows up, he signs up for the open mic list, and then he leaves. And then he leaves, and we call his name. We get to a spot on the list. We call his name. We can't find him. The open mic host goes and looks for him. We can't find him, and so we just skip him. And then I get up, send everybody off, say, hey, great show, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Turn it off. And then this dude, nobody knows, gets up on stage. He's like, I haven't had my turn yet.
Oh God.
And I was like, sorry, dude. Like you should have been here. Like you should have been in the room. And then he starts just talking all kinds of trash. And I'm doing my best to ignore him. But then he starts really coming after me, talking a bunch of shit. And then he starts talking shit to the staff. And then I just fucking lost my goddamn mind. And I was just I was just done being nice to this dude and had to throw him out, and it got real kind of physical, and I wasn't real proud of that, but got him out. I had to do what I gotta do. But.
As long as the restaurant wasn't unhappy, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, they asked him to leave, and it was like, as far as the staff there's Kat who weighs 110 pounds, and there's Marissa who's 8 months pregnant. Like, you know, there's nobody else to do this.
Kat
but
does
me.
look tough though.
I feel like Kat could cut you. I
wouldn't mess with her.
Yeah, she would cut you. I feel. But
I would generally not. This sounds wrong, but I wouldn't mess with the women of Fresno. They always seem a little like, not like edgy, but like,
they might stab you. Yeah, I've had some close calls.
It just seems, it's like she seems very nice. She bought a T-shirt off me once, but also I feel like, oh no, I'm not gonna make you. And the pregnant one, I actually was like, oh yeah, I could see her as the one to be like, no, get the fuck out of my show.
No, Marissa, she used to be a wild child. She's really calmed down now that she's a mom, but she's still kind of like that bitchy mean girl, which I am a sucker for, dude. I love a mean girl, and yeah, but
I just find girls who end up being mean to me, but not. I don't love that mean girl.
I don't know if you have this problem. I have this problem where like I like strong women, but sometimes I'll mistake mean women for being strong. You know what I mean? And then like I'll get a year into the relationship, and I'm like, oh, they're so mean, but they were mean from the beginning.
I more just have I'll put up with anything as long as you'll stay. So.
Oh, okay. You're a full blown victim.
I've had that sounds wrong. I've been with 2 alcoholics just because but she's there, right? And I can fix her, and it's not even like I need. It's not even that weird like. Sometimes you hear like, I can fix him, right? For girls, it's really just like you're here, so I'm gonna make this work because I'm sad,
right.
But I was gonna say that comedy, because of the nature of the beast, because it's a loner's performance, not art form, but art form, and because it seems to attract a decent number of angry young men who are like, I have words to say, and I want to say them. And like, I feel like, especially at open mics, there's always the possibility of like, oh, that guy's insane.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're not like violent insane like that guy, but just kind of like, oh, you believe a lot of weird things,
right?
But thanks for coming.
Well, that's almost that's always the thing that surprises me whenever I'm down just doing mics in LA is like you would think being LA, Southern California, people would be more politically correct, but I hear more fucked up things said.
Really?
I've heard so many fucked up things said down there. You would expect that type of behavior more in like a rural conservative area like Fresno, but I've heard the worst shit I've heard has been down there. You know, which is it seems a little wild to me. But
really,
yeah,
because usually LA comedy isn't great at self-policing some things. Like we could be better about being like you should this isn't you.
Yeah.
But like, it is pretty good about self-policing and ostracizing, particularly like dudes who say the wrong things.
Sure.
So the fact that you've actually heard it means it's weird that people are allowed to linger like that.
And I guess maybe a caveat to that is it wasn't necessarily L.A. It was more Orange County. It was. I was doing a mic down there a few months back, and it was in Orange County. And I know that area is a little less PC.
Because I'll run into I'll do a show, or I'll outside of L.A. or I'll see a comic and they'll tell jokes that I'll just think, oh no, you have to ditch that. There's no way you can do that in Los Angeles. Like whenever you get to Los Angeles, I did one. I think it was in the OC, and there was a guy telling jokes that would have been okay in the 90s, but were gauche or offensive enough in some racist, sexist way in 2019 or 2018, whenever it was. Uh-huh. But this was the OC, and he was young, and I mean, he was a straight white dude, but he wanted to be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Who's calling me? Who would call me? My phone's ringing.
It reminds me, I think my phone's on. I didn't silence my phone either.
I think this was one of my daily. Hey, thank you for using Marriott. I've never used Marriott. Thank you for using. You signed up for a cruise. I haven't signed up for a cruise.
How do you get so many robocalls?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, but it's always like Marriott. And my passive aggressive way of dealing with it is I answer it, and then I press 1 until I get to an operator, and then I just don't say a word and just let them listen to like the next 20 minutes of my life or a minute of my life. It's not like effective, but. At the same time, I know they're probably sitting in a horrible call center and somewhere, and they're like making $9 an hour just to fish for people.
Yeah.
But I get a bunch.
You grew up in Massachusetts?
Connecticut.
What's that like?
It's boring.
Is it?
Yeah. Pretty bland.
Wow. It's just like a Norman Rockwell like existence. Is that kind of what it was like? Or
I mean, it's kind of. I always used to say growing up. I used to say that we were one town away from quaint, but when I look back, we were pretty quaint. And if you go one town further into the suburbs, they had a lot. Like not I did, but West Hartford had a lot of money. But you go to like Simsbury or Avon or Farmington, these are just Hartford suburbs that had like, hey, your great grandfather founded the country kind of money.
Right.
That kind of that was a couple great. Your great grandfather was a robber baron, and so now you go to Choate Rosemary Hall or like. You go to Taft, or you go to Westminster. Just a lot of rich folk. It was pretty bland.
What kind of kid were you growing up? Were you into sports? Were you quiet? Were you the
nude?
Funny kid?
I was a nude.
You were a naked child.
I was nude all the time. Mr. Rosenberg, you have to put clothes on. Yeah. I was a nerd until I discovered I was funny, and then I was tried to be more funny than a nerd because no one respects intelligence in an 8-year-old, particularly not your peers.
Sure.
Right? Like, no one's like, you're so smart. You should be the most popular one here. That's not a thing that's said at 10 years old. But I was smart, and then I was weird, and so then I kind of let the weird outweigh the smart. I was also like super athletic. I played baseball, not well, but I played baseball. Played right field.
Yeah, and you crushed it. Yeah.
Oh, there was no crushing.
There's no crushing.
I'm a good fielder. I'm good with pop flies.
Yeah. I could see that. I
wish I had been. I mean, as a kid, you wish you were more athletic because if you're a boy, like that's all that matters, right? You know, I always think, who's the strongest? I have to figure out how to term this inoffensively. But the strongest straight males are straight males who don't care about sports. Like how do you survive? Like how do you like that's all you can compare yourself with your peers with,
right?
And that's all you really care about. Like, are you a Red Sox fan or a Mets fan or a Yankees fan? Like that's die hard.
I mean, that was always my dad growing up. My dad didn't give a shit about sports, but my dad's the fucking manliest. My dad can fix literally anything.
Well, yeah, but that's true when you're a dad, but not when you're 9.
No, you're right about that. I'll give you that.
Right, your social status is a combination of money and if you're good at football at recess.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're a straight dude who doesn't care about football who are you? How did you get this strength?
Right.
I never had that.
So that's your childhood. Did you have a big family? Do you have a bunch of brothers and sisters?
No. I'm boring and Jewish, so I have a brother. Jews have small families now.
Is he older or younger?
He's older. He lives in San Diego.
Oh, nice.
It's the financially responsible way to have a family. We don't have too many kids.
Yeah. There can only be one.
Then you have like 2 kids, occasionally 3 kids. I don't think anyone in my family, in my extended family, had more than, like, a couple people had 3 kids, but it was mostly 2 kids. You have 2 kids, replacement level reproduction. God, we're boring.
You're just trying to sustain. You're not trying to grow. You're just trying to sustain.
Well, I mean, like, if you go see, like, the Orthodox, they'll have like 14 kids or 9 kids, but... Sure. Secular Jews like me all are like, I'm gonna have 2 kids. I have a Josh and a Jennifer, and they both better go to law school.
And if we're really unlucky, a Rachel.
Yeah. And they're like 7 years. Oh, whoops, we have a Rachel.
What are and so you're growing up out in Connecticut. You're kind of the goofy, slightly athletic kid.
Super athletic.
I'm
really good at
ultimate frisbee. You're probably the most athletic. And then you go off to college.
I went to college because you grew up in Connecticut. You go to college.
Right.
I always want to do this. It's so dark, but because I was thinking about being Jewish and only having 2 kids. People always, why do Jews have money? And I've come up with 3 good reasons why Jews all have money. Number 1, we all go to fucking college, right? You've never met like, hey, I'm Bob Cohen and I happen to be a car repairman. Like, that's never a thing. Like, yes, you can own your own shop, but like there's no like, hey, we're a whole bunch of working class Jews just wandering around wondering when we get to farm or something. As I say that in Fresno, on the farm.
Yeah, that's fine.
What was the other? There was one other one, and the third one is that Jews have fucking abortions.
Oh, really?
Have you ever met a single Jewish mom?
No.
No, there's never Rachel Cohen and her 1 kid that she had at 20 as a mistake, right? We're just like, no, you're going to college, and if you get knocked up there, go see your uncle. He'll get it scraped out of you.
Wow.
Like, we have abortions.
That's wild. It's just something you guys don't talk about openly.
No, it's not talked about openly, but it's just, I feel like it's understood. We don't have like, we fuck. Jews fuck. Mm-hmm. We don't have any weird Christian problems with premarital sex, but we also don't have any of the weird problems with
abortion.
Yeah. What was the third one? Oh, we don't waste money at Christmas, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You goyim will have like presents 3 high and 3 wide around the tree.
Right.
And for Christmas, my mom will be like, here's a sweater. Tomorrow you're getting a book.
Right.
That's it.
Well, and it's like, Hanukkah. And it's not just the presents or the holiday. It's all the like the lead up too. You know, I mean, like November is a really stressful month for a lot of people.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Because of Christmas.
Yeah, we don't.
It's not even. Yeah, and so people are scraping and saving.
No. We don't have to do that. We don't go through all that hell. Right?
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, it's sadder. It's definitely sadder.
Where does the comedy come in for you at one point? Are you like, I think I'm going to be a comedian?
I was 11. I think I was 11. I was 11 on the playground at camp because all Jews go to camp. Mm-hmm. Jewish mothers can only deal with their kids about 50 weeks a year at most. And after they're like, just go to camp, go screw around in the woods of Maine or Massachusetts. Yeah. And one of the girls there we were sitting on, it was like a rainy-ish day, and we're sitting on the basketball courts. And she goes, oh, you're the funny one. I was like, oh, I'm the funny one. Okay. Oh, good. So I got to be the funny one. And that was the beginning of the end.
At 11, you were like,
Yeah. I used to watch SNL, and I used to watch comedy, like stand-up comedy, because there's a lot of it in the 80s and 90s on TV. And be like, I want to do that. That's right. I would stay up late on Saturdays when my parents were out, and I'd watch SNL, and then if they're still out, I'd switch over to they had late night comedy, and there was Comic Strip Live at 11 on Fox, and then 11:30 you'd go and watch SNL on NBC.
Yeah. And what was you remember your first open mic?
Yep, I did it in college.
Yeah.
I was in college. I was a sophomore, brought a couple friends, did Nick's Comedy Stop on a Wednesday. I did well. I did really well. I mean, I didn't do really well, but I did well.
Yeah. Well enough to get the hooks in you.
Well, I mean, I did. I mean, it was something I'd always wanted to do, and so I finally did. And then it was the end of the school year, so I didn't do it again. And then I went to Paris, and they didn't have any, or they did, but I didn't even look. And then the year after, between junior and senior year, I went and I did comedy. I did an open mic, and I bombed. Like, it was horrible. Sunday night in the Vault in Boston, it was just, it was like a cattle call. And this was 1999. This was 1999. Wow. So even then, there was just like 25 comics all going up and do their 5 minutes, and it was awful.
Yeah.
And so then I put that aside, and I graduated college, and I tried to get a job, and I lived with a girl, and I tried to have a real life, and then all that fell apart, and then I moved to Los Angeles.
And did you move? What brought you to Los Angeles?
The industry. Like, I knew it was going to be comedy eventually, but it was like whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever corner of the industry that I could get into.
And so then at what point did you restart it? It was like your mid-20s or?
Oh, I was 26.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was 26. I took a comedy class, a stand-up comedy class.
And at the prestigious Flappers University?
No, this predated Flappers by a bunch. It was at Judy Carter, like the lady who wrote the Comedy Bible.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the book.
That's actually pretty legit.
Yeah, she used to teach classes, so I took her class with just the craziest bunch of people.
Yeah.
I mean, comedy classes in Los Angeles, I guess, subsist off of, there's going to be a couple people who like want to be comics, and then there's going to be, most of the class is going to be an actor who wanted to branch out, or because their agent said so, or an improv person, or a person who'd always been afraid of it, or someone who always thought of it. A lot of dads, a lot of funny dads, funny teachers. God, some of their sets still haunt me 15 years later. I remember one guy's song about, he was in a punk band, but was also a dad, and then he did stand-up comedy. God, it was a disaster. One guy talked about his giant head for 4 minutes, and that's why his wife refused to have kids, because she didn't want to have his giant-headed
baby.
Yeah, just come out of her vag.
Oh yeah. That's kind of that's rife.
Oh God,
rife fertile grounds for funny material.
Oh, it was, and everyone, like every single person, myself probably included, was just more delusional than the next.
Sure.
And like, I remember getting my tape from my graduation showcase and asking a friend who was a working comic, like, so this is what I send? Do I send this to clubs and bookers? And he didn't have he didn't want to break my heart and be like, no, that's awful. You don't. And it was a tape. It was on
like
a
physical
video cassette.
Oh wow.
He wasn't like, no, you're an idiot. Just go out and do shit mics for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was.
At what point did the gear change? Like where at what point did you move? I mean, for the listening audience, David Rosenberg is essentially like a crowd work comedian. You have jokes. I know you have.
I
jokes.
sneak a lot of jokes.
You sneak a lot of jokes in. But at what point?
You use crowd work. You use the same crowd work, right?
Sure, you almost have like a Rolodex of
you
scenarios.
have a Rolodex of scenarios, and you know what you're gonna get, because if you don't, that's when it goes wrong. So you gotta you're asking the same questions.
Sure.
When did it was a gradual? No, it wasn't a gradual realization. It was both a realization and a struggle, because it's not accepted. Like what I do is not. No one wants to see that. It's great for bars. It's good for clubs. It's good for corporate if it's depending on the size of the room and how fun the people are. Like I've done corporate shows where it's worked really well, but LA is just about like your 7-minute Conan set, right? And no one's gonna be like, yeah, go screw around for 7 minutes on a taped TV show, and we'll just throw that on. That'll totally relate,
right?
So it's awful. So for years I would fight. I would go do shows at clubs and then feel really dumb. Like, I'm gonna do jokes. I'm gonna do jokes tonight. I'm gonna get this on tape. I'm gonna do jokes tonight.
Yeah.
And it was so hard. And it was this constant struggle, and I would look like a neurotic mess.
Oh, you were almost like addicted to engaging with the crowd like that.
I can't do a straight set. I've never really sat there and just done 5 minutes with no talking to them.
Right.
I remember thinking, hey, that stuff that I don't write down, that's better than the stuff that I do write down.
Right.
I remember thinking I should do that as opposed to that bullcrap I just wrote about. I don't know.
I think one thing you do well, particularly well, is you do pepper in some jokes, but they're also very memorable jokes. And I think some crowd work comedians don't do that enough. And it's because one of the great things about what you do is you create this very, very engaging and intense like group dynamic like it's not just you, it's not just the audience connecting with you, but it's also the audience connecting to each other.
Yeah. I think I try to. If I do it well, it's almost you've got to think. You create a little moment where you're going from table to table, and you're trying to hook up that guy at that table over there with that chick over there, and
then when occasionally you'll see them start doing callbacks to each other, like it's so cool. But at the same time too, as soon as the lights turn on, it's over. Like it's almost like it's disbanded.
Yeah,
and it's really kind of sad. And when you think about that the next day, the guy that was in that room, he goes up to his coworker. He's like, I was at this comedy show last night, and this guy was up there, and he was talking to this girl over here, but then like this girl over there, but then like what you would have had to have been
right.
There. It's hard to like.
It's a hard thing to relate, but for the time that you're there, it's a really good moment.
It's amazing, but that's where I think you're good about peppering in some of these like signature jokes, because at least that guy can be like, oh, he had this one Pinocha joke, and it was so funny. And I think that's part of it too, is just being able to have at least one memorable joke that somebody can like retell, and then that gets them interested in coming to your next show.
I try to also my sets now, I always say if I ever did have a girlfriend again, I don't know what my set would look like, because so much is it about me being single and asking how long they've been dating and being jealous of them and why aren't you married yet, because eventually, it's not eventually, but so many comics eventually just become crowd work comics, like headliners. If you go see if you go see a 20, 30 year vet, they're either going to want to do all their jokes and they don't care that you're there, or they're so tired of doing jokes and doing their jokes, they're just going to do crowd work.
Yeah, it's you're either Jay Leno or Brad Garrett, at that level.
And so as a newer crowd work guy, you have to have a personality, because otherwise you're just spending 7 to 45 minutes like, how long you two been fucking, right?
Right.
And otherwise, if you do that, it's just as indistinguishable as another crowd work person, or more as just crowd work, than as is other comics, just a stream of straight white guys talking about Tinder, right?
Right.
So you have to put yourself into it. So like when I do that well, I create a thing that's based upon my desperation, and so I try to get that guy to screw that chick, or that chick to screw that guy, just so I hope that, because if like it's contagious, like if everyone else is dating, eventually I'll get a date. So like that's
something I didn't really think about. It's like it's not just enough to have crowd work, but you have to have almost like a flavor or an
you
angle.
have to have a flavor. You still need a persona to your act, otherwise you're just it's just the same thing as it's vaguely similar to, or it's equivalent to, a one-liner comic that's just a one-liner comic, because then you're just a writer who happens to be on stage.
Right.
If it's not a one-liner that's about your experience or your personal point of view, then you're just a writer who's on stage.
Right.
And when you're a crowd work person and you're not putting anything of yourself into it, you're just a guy who's harassing the audience. And then there's no reason for anyone to remember you.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not the hardest row to hoe, but it always feels to me like a particularly hard.
Yeah.
Like it's built for shows like last night and bar shows and breweries and I always say that if a show ever has a dog in it, then I'm perfect for it. Like if there's a dog in the audience, I know I'm gonna kill. This
is my kind of crowd.
Yeah, because it's gonna be a looser, probably drunker crowd.
Yeah.
But
how funny.
It makes it harder to get on TV or like theaters. Theaters are kind of daunting because you have like you can see 3 rows, but there's 40 more rows behind you, and those 40 rows can't see the first 3 rows.
Right.
So it's harder to relate to.
It's wild, man. Yeah. Well, this is a podcast called Sad Dad. Is where we talk about dads.
Are you a sad dad? Is that why it's called?
Actually, no. It's a little bit of a. Sad dad was a phrase that I always said to myself when I felt like I was being like low effort as a parent. Like the effort, like my classic sad dad example is like making dinner for her. I'm like, oh, I'll make some mac and cheese, and then I'm like, oh, well, she needs some like fruit, so like I'll like like put a little cutie, on there, and then I'll like she'll need some vegetables, so I'll like get her some carrots, and like I'll set her plate down and realize I've made her an entirely orange plate.
Yeah,
of
that's
food.
just an orange plate.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, don't be a sad dad, dude. Like that's
awful.
that's something she's gonna like look back on and be like, oh, my dad was so sad. Like, yeah. So I just when it came time to like name my dad podcast, I was like, no, it's Dad.
Is your dad sad?
No, my dad's pretty chill. He's getting a little like he's getting a little quiet now that he's gotten older. My dad used to be this really big personality when he would like walk in the room. It's a lot of where I got it from, but yeah, now he's just kind of this quiet, stoic older guy. Now he's really.
I think
thoughtful.
that usually happens.
Yeah, I think he's slow down.
My dad's a very quiet person, but he's mellower. Like it's hard to say he's quieter, but because he was always quiet, but he's like mellower than he was when I was a kid.
Yeah,
but I think that just happens.
Where did he grow up?
He grew up in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. What was he doing out there? Where's his family's from?
I don't know. It's just one of those East Coast cities where people live in the 50s and play stickball in the streets.
Yeah. Was he part of a small Jewish family too, or what was he? What was
small
he doing
Jewish family, small, angry, sad Jewish family.
Yeah.
And then we once drove by his house. I have cousins in Philadelphia, right? And they're all happy. Like I hated visit them. I liked visiting them, but I hated visiting them because my family was sad. And then we'd go to see my dad's cousins, and they were like happy and they were big. Like I have a cousin who played lacrosse for Duke.
Oh wow!
And the Air Force, right? Like he was like, and he like just have great hair, and it was just like a happy. They were just a happy family.
Right.
And then like 4 sad, angry Rosenbergs would just wander into a bar mitzvah and yell at each other. And everybody like, oh, this is great. Oh, we should hang out sometime. And I knew we were never. I didn't know. I thought, oh, we're gonna hang out with the cool ones. I had like 2 cousins who were models.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then it was just the 4 of us. But one bar mitzvah, I think it was my cousin David's bar mitzvah. Who's like a financial planner in LA that I saw once. He, like they all ended up rich. Like they all ended up doctors who married lawyers, or married doctors, or nurses who married. It was dumb.
Sure.
We drove by my dad's old house in South Philly, and our brakes went out on our car.
Oh shit.
Yeah, like it's like ooh, like it's a spooky thing. Like don't go home again.
Yeah.
And so that would be spooky enough, but then we had to sit in a Pep Boys in your full like suit, your dress clothes because you just gone to synagogue for 2.5 hours, and it was with my family, my dad's family's side. So my mom was especially miserable. Oh, that was the worst afternoon.
What was it? I mean, you kind of were making a joke about like you and your side of the family being a little bit more dour. Was that how your dad was too as a kid, or was he? I mean, you were saying he was kind of a big outgoing personality at some point. I mean, what kind?
No, he wasn't never a big outgoing personality.
No?
He was weird and quiet. He was weird, but he was externally quiet. My dad never speaks in like social situations. Like he's good at baseball, but he was never a coach. He would be the guy at baseball practice when your kid's 10 years old who would just hit the pop flies to the kids. But he was never the dad who was like, okay, you're gonna go to play second, you're gonna play third, and you're not doing great today, so you're gonna ride the bench. Like that was not my father.
Right.
So
what's he end up going to school for? What's his trade?
He was an electrical engineer, which is I guess what you went to school for in the 68, and then end up in computers.
Oh, nice. Okay. He's a computer guy.
Yeah, he's a math and computer guy.
Yeah.
He was a computer guy, but it's not like he never latched onto the internet like people did, right? Like some people did.
Yeah.
So, my dad could probably have put together our Apple II Plus in 1984. But he doesn't even have an iPad now.
Oh, really?
Right, yeah.
Is that intentional, or he just has no interest? Like, is he?
Well, that's the funny thing about doing a podcast about your dad is like, I don't know.
Sure.
You don't talk to your dad. 2 dudes don't talk. Like when I have like a heart to heart.
Yeah. No.
Dad, dating's really hard. I'm never gonna have that conversation with my father.
Really? Yeah. Why is that? You get. I mean, like, what was your relationship like? I guess
he's just very quiet.
Yeah.
Do you talk about ladies with your dad?
Sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah. Just kind of depends.
My dad's advice was not to marry someone like my mother because they fought a lot, and then also that girls have good parts. women have good parts. That was
probably like the best parts. Yeah.
Yeah. That is probably the only advice I've ever gotten.
Yeah.
From my father.
What's I mean, does he have any hobbies? What's he do?
No. Does your dad have hobbies?
Yeah, my dad has a million hobbies. Not true.
I mean, like, look, when I was growing up, my dad, he played softball. And he played racquetball.
Yeah.
And he did a volunteer activity. He volunteered at a organization that helped the mentally handicapped, right?
Yeah,
and raised money for them. But we also did events like pumpkin carving.
Okay, it's kind of fun.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, though to this day, even though I grew up not around them, but like semi-annually, I saw mentally handicapped people. They still weird me out. I mean, not like weird me out. I'm not like, don't touch me. And I volunteered with them myself as an adult,
Sure.
but it's still like, that's a weird thing that we shoot out one of those every once in a while. That's probably the bad way to put that. But he did those things, and now he volunteers and picks fruit because they live in San Diego, so they like.
They're out in Southern California too.
Yeah. My brother lives down there, so they followed both of us, but it made more sense to live in San Diego than it did to live in L.A.
Yeah.
And so, like, a couple of times a month, he'll go with. My parents volunteer as ushers at the symphony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my mom complains about it constantly.
Yeah.
I don't know why they do it. And then my dad goes and he picks fruit, like, off of rich people have, like, you know, Jane and John Smith have a mini orchard in Encinitas because he was a banker for 30 years. And they also have horses. And so, like, you go and you otherwise the fruit would rot. So you go and you pick the lemons, then you give it to a homeless shelter or something.
Yeah.
But so I did that with them in June, and it was me and all these, like, 75-year-olds. And it was the most, at like 6:30 on a Tuesday morning. I'd done a show the night before, and I had two realizations. One was that this was cool for them to do because they were retired.
Yeah.
But I was just a waste of space who had Tuesdays free.
Right.
Like I do today. Like I did comedy, and so that I guess I'm going to go pick fruit with my dad. And then the other realization was that, I'm going to have to drive one of these old people because they're having a heart attack to the hospital. Like 78-year-old Marion just slipped on the hill, and now I have to drive her to like Cedar Sinai or Scripps because her chest exploded. It was an odd Tuesday morning.
What? How did your mom and dad meet? They seem to. I mean, if they've been together this long and they're out picking apples together.
So she doesn't go to the picking apples thing. She one of my general theories in life is that one of the strongest forces in human relations or human affairs is inertia.
Okay.
Right? You're married because you were married yesterday. I do comedy because I did comedy yesterday.
Right.
Like, I love comedy.
Almost like the sunk cost fallacy. Like,
yeah. But also, it takes so much for you to stop doing something.
That's true.
You want to quit your awful job, but it's your paycheck, and it would take so much wherewithal to go and figure out a new job to do and find a new career and do all this research and send out resumes. Or it would take so much for people to break up, so they're like, well, I dated her yesterday, so I'll date her today. My parents married because they were married yesterday. It's not great. They met. They said my mom was dating my dad's roommate. I don't know how far that got. Like, maybe she went on a couple dates. I don't know. That's just the story we were told for nigh on 50 years. That she was dating his roommate, and then she like went one door over. I don't know. I'd have to get.
Oh, that's funny. She's watching your dad. Yeah, it's like for some reason I'm thinking about that scene from what was it? The Nerds, where he turns a Revenge of the Nerds. Wait, never mind. It's a really problematic scene from that movie where the lights go off and she thinks she's sleeping with one guy, but it's a different guy. But that's probably
that's my parents married. Probably not.
I also like that you take like a quality that some people would refer to as like commitment and devotion, and you give it this like really like sterile scientific term like inertia. Like, it's.
But I think that's what it is.
Sure,
it's not. My parents aren't an intense love. Like, they mostly squabble. And when I was a kid, they screamed at each other.
Wow.
But what are you gonna do? You're gonna divorce after 49 years?
Sure.
I mean, like, there were times looking back that maybe they would have been better off and they could have found someone. But also, like, couples, they grow codependent.
Yeah. That's real.
My mom needs my dad to do the finances. My dad needs my mom to have any sort of social life.
Yeah, right.
So eventually you go, well, I guess this is how it goes.
Yeah.
Right?
And growing up, like, what's your relationship like with your dad? Is he like? I mean, you mentioned like the baseball, like, pop fly thing. Is that a real thing that your dad did? Was he real involved?
My dad had hit me pop flies a lot. We had catches.
Yeah. Was he at like all the games?
He went to all the games. He would go. He would still want to go to all my comedy shows. He hasn't in a while, but he would go. But he's so quiet.
Yeah.
He's so quiet, and we don't really talk about it, which is good and bad because, like, I don't need to talk about it, but at the same time, my dad's never going to hear of my sex life on stage and then want to be like, so you're hooking up on Tinder with rando chicks, huh? He's never going to have that happen. But at the same time, like, I remember a couple years ago, or last year, I did some shows in Hawaii. And even though I drive like an ungodly amount of miles each year, whenever we go on vacation as a family, my dad just puts himself on the car rental thing, so he has to drive us everywhere.
Oh, okay.
So when I did these shows, my dad had to drive me to these shows.
Oh, how funny.
So I'm headlining the show in Honolulu, and I destroyed for like 35, just destroyed. And then we had a mostly quiet drive home, and the whole time I want to be like, did you see that? I just fucking ripped that shit. That was amazing. But because we don't have that relationship, like, like that was
how wild. Yeah. I mean, but it sounds like he likes the comedy thing. I mean,
no Jewish parents want their kids to be a comedian.
Well, I guess there's something to that.
If I told my parents that I wanted to go to law school after all these years, they'd be like, "Oh my God, we still have this money for this."
Oh, how funny! Yeah.
We'll totally support that. But my dad would be supportive of whatever I did, unless I was a criminal. My dad, I remember. When back east, this is one of the things I noticed about back east compared to the West Coast. Why back east is more intellectual. Everyone puts their kids, or they put their kids a sticker of their kids' university on the back of their car. That's a very East Coast thing. So you see like a car that has like Dartmouth and Williams and UVA, or like UConn and Dartmouth, right? Whatever kids they have. So eventually you have like 5 stickers because, like, you have 2 kids and they went to college and then they went to grad school, right? And it's a very prideful thing. And I forget if it was my brother or when he went to college or when I went to college, and my dad was like, we were getting the sticker. And my dad was like, well, we would put whatever sticker, whatever school you went to, even if you went to West Japip University. I don't know what West Japip is. I don't know if it's like a Philadelphia slang. But he would have been proud no matter what.
Sure, yeah.
So they're proud, but they'd probably want me to do anything else.
Sure.
No, my mom's not proud.
I know.
She hasn't come to a show in like 5 years.
Oh,
and it was like 8 years before that. 3 years. Something like that.
Yeah. They're just kind of like, I mean, she's kind of. I mean, your dad sounds like a really, nice dude. I mean,
he's very nice, chill.
He seems really sweet, and
very
really
nice. He volunteers. He does a lot of volunteer stuff. That key into his passions. Just quiet.
Yeah, he's retired at this point.
So my dad was a mid-level computer guy that one summer I worked at the same corporation that he worked at, a giant corporation, and I still to this day only have a vague idea of what he did. Like, I worked upstairs from him, and I don't know what he did for 35 years. Some sort of systems, like, you have a large corporation, you need like internal computer systems, whether it be payroll or something. That's what he did.
I got you.
And so while he was doing that, he also tutored kids in math. He would love to just... My dad, if you have to go somewhere and my dad has to wait, he'll bring a book of Sudoku.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, if other people bought a book, or like anyone else would be sitting on their phone, or like talkative dads would just go talk to everyone, my dad will just sit there and do Sudoku.
Yeah.
And he tutored kids for years in math, SAT math particularly, but all sorts of math. And then... He did that more after he retired from his real job, and then he started. He actually was he was basically an in-house tutor at a private school, and so he's retired. But now he still does some tutoring and sub work in San Diego.
Huh. I mean, he just seems like he's always trying to help people.
I mean, yeah, that's a good perspective on it.
Yeah, he just seems like he's just really quietly he's just quietly putting in the work and helping humanity at large. I like it, and he's not making a big deal about it.
No. My father's never.
Yeah.
No, I remember when he worked when he was really big in volunteer work in Connecticut. I never felt a sense of like political machinations or aspirations to be like, I need to run this organization. I'm going to make it huge. It was just like, well, someone's got to do the books, and I show up to the meeting, so I guess I'm president now, right?
I mean, and there's a quiet virtue in that.
Yeah,
I feel.
Yeah. My dad has lived a solid human existence, right? Raised 2 kids. He dotes on his granddaughters. He does his volunteer work. He lived a human life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. This is the part of the show where I ask for like a dadictote, just like a favorite story about your dad from childhood. Did you have one of those in the...
I was trying to think of those. So I already told you about when our...
the brakes went out?
When our brakes went out. I don't remember my dad's responses. I just remember being very tense. And also just the work. Like, you never want to be in dress clothes as a 11-year-old kid.
In Pep
but
Boys,
also in a Pep Boys in a strange city. Oh, God. When your parents are arguing. When all you want to do is go hang out with your cooler cousins. And you're just going to... spend the afternoon what kids now, they have iPads, but spending the afternoon in like a Pep Boys or a furniture store in 1989 is like the worst way to spend a Saturday. My dad's pretty weird. Like he makes sounds not as much as I do, but I get a lot of it from him. All dads have their own weird things. Like my dad would. Whenever I would ask how long it was to get somewhere, he would always say an hour, 20 minutes. Always. And it was always an hour and 20 minutes. I don't know how this worked. I have no idea. I've always I'll bring this up now, and then I'll go see him, and I'll forget to ask him. If my suspicion is because we were little, he would just drive around until it was like, and my mom didn't know where we were going. So there was he would just drive around so that he could hit an hour and 20 minutes.
That's so funny.
I don't know.
I like that you have conspiracy theories about your dad.
Yeah, but not like big ones. Not like, other kids like, my dad was a super spy.
No.
Right? No, my dad just finagled how long it took to get to my aunt's in Baltimore.
That's so funny.
Every single car ride. How long? An hour and 20 minutes. So it became like a mantra in our family.
That's so funny.
So I don't know. I should ask my dad. But again, we don't really talk. So, but
I don't know. Maybe you will now. Maybe
I will. I'm going to see him.
Yeah, go see him.
It's actually weird because I'm going to see him next. I'm doing a show in San Diego next Tuesday, and my mom's out of town, so I'm going to have like a weird night with my dad.
You can listen to this podcast together. I'm no, God,
no. Usually when I do podcasts, I send it to my father, and I'm convinced like that's the only listener that I'll get.
Sure.
But this is the one I won't keep away from him.
Yeah, that's so funny. Even though it's all about him, you were very nice. You were very complimentary for the most part.
No, I mean he yelled at me a lot, and there were spankings when I was little, and I was. But I mean, all kids are terrified of their parents to some degree.
Yeah, that's real. Well, David, you've been super fun today. Actually, I'm really glad I got to do this with you.
Was it good? Was it good enough?
I think it was great.
Was that a good anecdote? What other anecdote do people tell?
I mean, it's
my dad taught me to shoot.
Yeah, sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're sad, sometimes they're, it's just more about like a moment in time that sticks out for any particular reason. So I thought it was great. It was fun. It was light. It was good. What if people want more David Rosenberg in their life?
You can follow me on. So I have a website which is davidrosenbergcomedy.com. On Instagram and Twitter. So here's the thing. On Instagram and Twitter, I have the same handle. It's at RosiePigs, ROSIEPIGS. But my Instagram is funny, and I post pictures of like my life and my volunteer work, but not like I volunteer at a hospital, but I can just post the Play-Doh that I play with. And that's my Instagram, and I post like my Tinder profiles of girls who I think are disasters. Like, why do you look like you're pooping? Or why is it just the sunset? Who's gonna date the fucking sunset? But on the flip side, my Twitter I just use to troll Trump supporters, like
that's so
specifically
funny.
conspiracy theorists, like
Yeah.
QAnons. I do a lot of QAnon Twitter.
Yeah.
So you can follow that. And I'm on Facebook, and I have a David Rosenberg fan page on Facebook.
Oh, nice. I'll link your website. I'm
Oh,
sure it probably
thanks.
has like links to all that.
A couple months ago, my career's going great. It's not. So a couple months ago, a booking agency was calling me about doing like some casino gigs, and I was like, oh, great. And they were like, can you do this date? And I was like, I don't know. I was driving. I was like, I don't know. I got to check my website because that's where I keep my schedule. I just update that calendar. I got to do that after this.
Right.
And they're like, we can check your calendar if you want. And I was like, honestly, I feel like I'm the only person who checks my website. So I don't want to make it paranoid by having someone else check my website. Like my website would be like, who is this other person who's checking us out?
Right.
So that's dumb. But you can check out my website.
Yeah. You go all your dates today. Great, man. I'll link it up. Dude, thank you so much for doing this.
You're
today.
welcome. Thanks for having me.
And we're back. David Rosenberg, guys. Go to his website. Yeah, he's great, huh? Go to check out his website. I linked it in the show notes. You can see him. It's wild, man. He headlined last night, and we had both nights that he was up, both Monday and Tuesday. We had great crowds, great audiences both nights. It was a blast. And last night he delivered. We also had up this week a guy named Shaman Johal, who is another very, very funny comedian, originally from a dusty little town an hour north of here called Livingston. And Shaman was on the show last night with David, and both of them had great sets. And then after the show last night, Shaman swung by my place, and we recorded a really good episode of Sad Dad. Shaman and I did, and so that's going to be next week's episode with Mr. Shaman Johal. And then that's it for this week, you guys. Just a couple of housekeeping things. Rate and review on iTunes if you need to get a hold of me, saddadpodcast@gmail.com. And Sad Dad Patreon if you want to support the show financially. I feel like there's one more. Got that one. Oh, Sad Dad Facebook page. I mentioned that earlier. Let's fire up a Stranger Things chat. Somebody's got to like jump on the grenade though. I can't start it. I mean, I guess I could start it. That's weird. And somebody do it for me. I get nervous. I know you guys are like my fans, but I'm like, no. Aren't you supposed to be nervous talking to me? Is that how it works? I don't know. Help me out. Somebody fire up the Stranger Things thread, and I'll be all over it. So somebody just jump on it. And then, I guess I hinted at this. I guess I can announce this now. We have a date for it. I mentioned a couple weeks ago I had like this big project that I've been working on, and I've been working on it with Full Circle Brewery, which is a brewery here in Fresno, and we're gonna throw a podcast festival. Yeah. Like a music festival, but with live podcasts instead. And we're going to mix in some music and some other types of performance as well. But just a full day of live podcasts. I got all my podcasting buddies out of Southern and Northern California are on board, and going to have out some great acts. And so, yeah, October 12th is when we're going to do it. I got to think of a name for it, though. I was bouncing some ideas off of my buddy Kyle Clark. And because it's like, it was so funny. They're like... They confirmed with me. I went into some meetings with Full Circle about what we wanted it to do and what we wanted it to be, and so we can get on the same page about stuff. And then they finally, my contact there messaged me with a date. He was like, "This is the date. Is this work for you?" I was like, "Yeah, that works for me because now that we have a date, we can really make this thing a reality. We have a goal." And he was like, "Great. What do you want to call the festival?" I was like, "I didn't think about that at all." So I'm kicking around a few ideas. I was spitballing some ideas with Kyle, and I landed on at one point the name that Kyle fell in love with that I threw at him was the Ash Tree Comedy Festival, which is like to me, like Kyle's like, I love it. You know, it's sort of got this weird, like, you know, Bonnaroo, Coachella, like sort of this weird kind of like standalone name where you can be like, oh, are you doing Ash Tree this year? Or like, are you going to Ash Tree? You know, are you, you know, do you got your tickets for Ash Tree? Like, you know, and the problem with it, as cool as it is, because Fresno is Spanish for ash tree. And it's almost like local hack, you know, like there's a lot of businesses around here called Ash Tree Plumbing or Ash Tree, I don't know, mobile porta potty pump, you know, like, but outside of it, that was one of the things Kyle was saying though. He was like, oh, you gotta picture in the long term, like, yeah, it's going to be a local thing to begin with, but if things really take off, you only get one shot at naming this thing. And that was one of the things. Full circle was like, how many of these you want to do a year? I was like, a year? I was just thinking one a year. Like, yeah, I mean, but we're maybe thinking about making it a seasonal thing. I don't know yet. We'll see how this first one goes in October, and maybe we can make it, you know, podcast fest for all seasons. We can kind of like keep a rotation of new live podcasts. I was also thinking about just like leaning hard into it and just really taking ownership of it and calling it like the Sad Dad Podcast Festival, because like I need brand awareness as much as anybody else. But I digress. Maybe I haven't decided on the name, but October 12th, mark your calendars. Should be a good time. You know, the first anything is always a learning curve. You know, there's always we're gonna learn a million things on the first one. So we're gonna do our best to set ourselves up for success. So I'm excited. It's a real challenge, sort of a kind of not only a next step, but like a different step for me. You know, I mean, I'm at this point now where Danny and I, Danny Minch, my co-producer on these comedy shows, is like, okay, we've proved to ourselves we can run 6 shows a week at this blistering pace. We can do 6 weekly shows, and we've gotten to the point where these shows just kind of like run themselves. You know, I mean, like the local comedians have all stepped in, and they make our lives so much easier than it used to be. I mean, I show up a lot of times, and the show's ready to go. It's my show, and these young cats have come in and really taken ownership of the scene, and so it's one of those things where, yeah, we've done this one impossible thing. Like, what's the next impossible thing? And this kind of feels like it for me, you know, outside of just working on my own stage act and working on my own stand up. Like, I'm really, really excited about this particular project. So, cool. Ooh, man, I've had a lot of coffee today. I've been firing hot. All right, cool, guys. Well, that's it for this week. You've been a ton of fun. I'll try to have Abby on the show next week. She's actually at summer camp this week. It's her first sleepaway camp. She was so excited. I've gotten a million pictures of her up there, and she's having so much fun. I'm so happy for her. And you know, as a dad, that's like, oh, it's like, my little kid's a big kid now. Like, she's going to summer camp. I remember going to summer camp. And you know, so I'm excited, but I'll try to have her on next week's intro. Maybe tell you guys about how summer camp went. So cool, guys. That's it. All right, I will talk to you soon. We'll be back next week with the very funny, very talented Mr. Shaman Joe Hall. Adios. Oh, also too, you guys want me to mix up the music on the outro? Let's mix up the music on the outro. Let me redo this real quick. I'm gonna mix up the music. You might even be hearing it right now. We'll be back next week with Mr. Shaman Joe Hall.